the great thing about the Avid S4 is it's modular, semi-modular. So we can basically put this module here, we can have that over there, we can have faders over here. Now I've recently changed mine around. And the reason I did that was because originally I had a MacBook Pro here, and I then had two fader modules. I had the master module, and then I had the mouse here. And that worked, but the problem with it was, when I was over the MacBook Pro, I was over it here, which wasn't sitting center. So I wanted to get a modular setup. Now, I wanted to get a setup where I'm sat directly in the middle and I could change things. The reason why I'm able to change it now is because I've switched my MacBook Pro for a Mac Studio Mac Studio Max. I've put a Mac Studio in. Now, by having a Mac Studio, I don't have the MacBook. Now, I could never put the MacBook in here because it just doesn't fit. So now I've got these three screens which connect to the Mac Studio. Right. So I was asked, why have I gone with the configuration of the left side having a bank of 8 faders there and a bank of 8 faders there, when realistically, if we bank through, they're banking from here over to here. Now, that would, if you were working across the desk like that, it would be confusing that the first 8 faders are there, then they bank onto these 8 faders. That would be confusing, but that's not how and why I use it as two separate banks of 8 faders. Now, what I do is I use the spills. Now, my spills, my left spills, I have as audio. So these are now all my audio files, which are completely independent from this. So these are all my audio files. I then have my right spill here as my buses, which are in folders over here. So I now have these files. So these channels here that I control here are all my buses, totally independent from these. Now, the great thing about this setup is, if I've got, let's say I am looking at one of the buses, let's say we go to the vocal bus. So if I've got a vocal bus, now everything that's in my vocal bus, I can now just fire over to here by pressing the attention button. Now all of that is my vocal bus, all my audio files or all my channels inside my vocal bus. So if I want to go to my BVs, they're my BVs. If I want to go to one of my Dolby buses, I can switch between all these different buses and literally throw all the channels going into these buses onto this side. It's brilliant that way. So it makes these two independent. I then also, what you can do is, when you set up your spills, you can set your spills up into a certain range. You could have them as the first 4. I have it to 7, which means that what I can have here is this channel never changes. So anything I do, this never changes. This is always my reference channel. So I always have that as my reference channel, and that lets me just instantly reference to the reference track. So that's why I have it set up like this. I can then have in the center, I have my mouse, keyboard, master control. But the good thing about having it this way is I then have my zoom. So this is my zoom in and out. So there we have the zoom in and out on my left hand. And then with the magic mouse, left and right, scrolls down the timeline left and right, then scrolls up and down. So I can really quickly move to anywhere just instantly off of this staying in this control, in this center section. I've also got my touchscreen right in front of me. I've then got as well is I've got my 2 banks of parameters here. So what I like to do is, on my buses, for instance, I have all my inserts where I can just throw up the plugin up here, and then I've got all my control here for that plugin. So I now have all the control that I need straight off of there. This side, I've then got all my controllers well. If I want to open anything up, the only thing I wish could happen is that anything that I did on this one, if I ignited it on this one, that plugin would technically show up on this window. It shows up over here, which isn't a problem, but I would love it if it could just recognize that I want to bring it up onto that screen. There's no way of doing that I know of. Then if I hit all and hit, let's say, sends, now when I take it out of expansion, I now have all my sends. So I can now see all my send channels, and then I can see all my send channels on each of the audio tracks as well. So there we have my reasoning behind having these two faders separate from each other. This section, the master section, and my keyboard and mouse here. So I've got everything in front of me. That is why I do it the way I do it.